Yo, welcome everybody. This is the second episode of Uncivilized Arts, the Geek and Internet Culture podcast, episode number 2. You know what? I'm saying episode number 2 now, but I think to be honest, I'm probably just going to stop counting after a while because the plan is to keep doing these as much as possible and eventually just going to get into numbers that go bigger than 10. So I'm kind of like, maybe I should just stop counting now. But this is episode number 2. And I want to talk about a few things today. There's a couple of things, more than a couple of things I want to talk about. I want to talk about YouTube offering this grants to podcasters, because that could be interesting. I want to talk about this Kanye West STEM player, which, that might seem a little bit outside the realms of geek and internet culture, but, maybe it's a little bit connected. Just maybe it's a little bit connected. I also want to talk about just a little bit about the sexual harassment case that PlayStation, let me talk properly. That might help if you did a podcast on how to talk properly. But yeah, 8 more women have come forward to allege sexual harassment at PlayStation, maker of Sony. And also want to talk about the Zoë Kravitz situation where she talked about being rejected or not being able to audition for The Dark Knight Rises. So, being urban. And that came up some of the fallouts from that. So, those are the things I want to talk about. Before I get into it today, let me just wax lyrical a little bit about what I'm wanting. So, I have been playing The Evil Within, which is an old ass game. I know it came out. I don't even know when it came out. It was a while ago. It was like on the Xbox, I think, or Xbox 360, I think. But it's an old game, I know. And I've tried it before, and I didn't get too far in it. But I've been playing it again recently since it's been on Game Pass. Big up Game Pass. You got to hear me talk a lot about Game Pass, by the way. You got to hear me talk a lot about Game Pass. It is. Me likes me some Game Pass. But anyway, I've been playing it little bit by little bit over the past maybe a few months, and I've gotten quite far in it. I don't know how far I'm in, but yeah, that game is got me though. It's freaky. And it's an old game as well, but it's madness. Some of the things going on and some of the effects that they use to like when you're running through a corridor or something, like the sound effects that they have, the lighting, it's stuff that you've probably seen in other games by now, and I guess I've seen it in other games as well, but still, I don't know, man. Something about this game, it's just like the way it does it. Maybe it's a combination of the sound and everything else that just all come together real nicely. But like I say, I don't know how far I'm in the game. I feel like I'm quite far, maybe somewhere around close to halfway-ish. I don't know. I've been playing it for a while, but a little bit here, a little bit there, that kind of thing. But yeah, it's The Evil Within. If you've not played The Evil Within, then yeah, you might want to get on that. Also been playing a bit more Blood Roots. I'm up to the first boss now in Blood Roots called the Boar, or was he called the Boar? The Boar, something like that. But he's this big dude that throws enemies at you, and you got to shoot enemies or stab the enemies or whatever. Here's why I like a Blood Roots. I said before that it's a one hit kill rather. So you hit the enemy once, they're dead. They hit you once and you're dead. And you've got different weapons that have different abilities. And so the way you navigate the game could be based on what weapons you pick up first, which enemies you take first. Some of the enemies have guns. Some of them are quicker than others. Some of them, and you got things like how the sword, if you get the samurai sword or whatever kind of sword it is, that makes you dash. You've got like the ladder that you can spin around. Also, you can use it to jump as well, or the paddle that you can use to maybe jump higher. So like the different weapons that you have, create different abilities, and I just feel like it's a really cool way because it makes it kind of like a action strategy game of sorts. Where you really have to kind of think about which weapons you go for first, which enemies you go for first. Do you try to get this one or that one? This one's got the gun, but he's out of reach. You have to go there to get there. Do I go, you got to think about kind of stuff. So it comes like almost like a strategy action game. But you got to think quick because you can't keep still. You keep still, somebody going to hit you and you be dead. So you got to keep moving. And you got to figure it out while you're moving. And of course, it's got trial and error. So, you do it once you get killed and you go, okay, that didn't work. Let me try something else. So yeah, I'm digging that game so far. I'm up to the first boss. I'm not beating yet the first boss, but I did get to, like, I guess there's stages with the boss. So I got past the first stage of the boss. I don't know how many stages there are because I haven't beaten them yet. But I did get past the first stage and then the second stage. But because I put the game down, next time I'm gonna have to play that first stage again. That's how it goes. You're gonna start from the beginning. Well, begin of that whole boss level anyway. But yeah, so I'm digging Bloodroots. Digging Bloodroots. Also watched RoboCop 2 again recently, which if you've not seen RoboCop 2, go see RoboCop 2. It was made, well, it was released back in 1990. And I actually remember when it came out. I remember there was one girl in my school who'd seen it. And by the way, this is like way before we're old enough to see it. But one girl in my school had seen it. And she was telling us about it. I remember being in the playground while she's telling us what happens in RoboCop 2. I don't remember all the words she said at this point. But I remember being in the playground. It was maybe like, I don't know, 5, 6 of us kind of gathered around her. And she was like, oh yeah, and then this happened and that happened. And it was such a cool thing back then. These days, I'd rather not people spoil movies for me. But back then, it was a cool thing. Because like, I don't know, we would have been like, I don't know, 12 maybe, something like that. 12, 13 at the time, give or take. 11, somewhere between 11 and 12. Let's see, 19. I mean, it was out in 1990. So yeah, between about 11, 12-ish, give or take. But yeah, so back then it was like, whoa, you got to see these movies are rated 18. But yeah, I watched it again recently, and I've watched it a few times over the years, but I watched it again recently, and it's a great movie, man. It really is. Like, I looked on Rotten Tomatoes, and apparently not many people liked it. I can't think why. It's a great movie. I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, yeah, I'm always gonna like prefer the original, just as a from in terms of like preferences, and just the original one was just an amazing film, and especially at the time that I watched it, it was just a point in my life where I was very much susceptible to what it was doing. So that's always going to have like a special place for me. But RoboCop 2 was fantastic, man. It really was. Like, it was cheesy at times, some one-liners that I guess they tried to go with the Arnie one-liner type things in some areas. And it wasn't really coming across as well as Arnie does it, to be fair. But still, man, that whole thing about Kane and the nuke and that little kid, man, that film is great, man. If you've not seen RoboCop 2, do yourself a favor and go watch RoboCop 2 and get ready for some 90s cheesy, corny as hell movie. But speaking of movies, because we do talk about movies here, we talk about games, we talk about geek culture here. I did see something a bit more recent. All the stuff I talked about before was old stuff. I think Bloodroots is like 2020. That was all old stuff. I did see something that's actually recent, because sometimes I do try to keep up with the latest stuff. I went to see The Batman, and it was excellent. Now, I'm just going to do a little review. No spoilers, but I'm going to give you just a little review of The Batman for anybody who hasn't seen it and is wondering whether you should see it or not. Go see it. Like, that's my review. That's my review. Go see it. It is incredible. I know there was a lot of people back when Robert Pattinson was announced as the Batman, were skeptical about his ability to play the Batman. Don't even sweat. Listen, yo, I don't even know what I want to say. I think I know what I want to say, but it's not really coming out the way I want to say it. Don't even worry about it. Don't sweat that. Just don't even, like, listen, let me tell you something. Robert Pattinson as the Batman, yeah, he does his thing. He understood the assignment, as the young folks say these days. Man does the thing. You understand? Robert Pattinson, Zoë Kravitz, everybody in that movie, Colin Farrell, everybody. I forgot the names. Let me let me get some names real quick, because I need to big people up. Let me big up some people real quick. Stanley Tucci. Is that Stanley Tucci or Stanley Tucci? I'm not sure how to spell it. I think it's Tucci. Stanley Tucci. Matt Reeves, of course, the director. Big up the director, Matt Reeves. Peter Craig. Bill Finger, Batman created by Bill. Oh, okay. Wasn't it Bill? No. Wasn't it Bob Kane that created Batman? Hold on a second. I'm on the movie database right now. Yeah, Bob. Okay, so maybe there's two people that created Batman. So Bob Kane is listed as a creator of Batman, and then also Bill Finger is listed as creator of Batman. I knew about Bob Kane. I didn't know about Bill Finger. So I'm sorry, Bill Finger. I'm sorry, Bill Finger. I did not know you was one of the creators of Batman. But big up Bob Kane and Bill Finger. Bill Finger. You know what? Let me. I'm just saying. I'm just saying. Anyway, let me big up something. Jeffrey Wright, bro. Jeffrey Wright as Lieutenant James Gordon. Big up man like Jeffrey Wright. Paul. How can I forget Paul Dano? Paul Dano. Listen, yeah. People are already online talking about who their favorite Batman villain is between the Riddler, played by Paul Dano, and the Joker, played by Heath Ledger. Now, whoever your favorite is, that's your business. You know what I'm saying? That's your business. I'm not going to argue with you who's your favorite is. All I'm going to say is that Paul Dano as the Riddler. You know, I said Stanley Tucci. I'm sorry. It's actually John Toretto. I got the name wrong. My bad. My bad. And by the way, real quick. So yeah, I these podcasts aren't live, but they are recorded one take. So if I make a mistake, you're gonna hear the mistake. But yeah, John Toretto. Sorry, my bad. I was thinking of Stanley Tucci. That's another actor. I got it confused in my head. John Toretto. Tortero, excuse me. Let me get his name right. John Tortero is the guy I was trying to think of, but I got it mixed up and said Stanley Tucci. John Turturro. But still, big up Stanley Tucci anyway, because he's a good actor still. But he's not in this movie, but still, big him up anyway. Andy Serkis, come on, man. Peter Sarsgaard, Bill Keon. Bill, sorry. See, I can't even read right now. Barry Keon. Barry Keon, I might be saying that name wrong, but he was in The Eternals as Druig. So yeah, I think you might be seeing more of him. But yeah, just big up everybody in this movie. Listen, yeah, if you've not seen The Batman and you're wondering whether you should see The Batman, this is my review. See The Batman. It is incredible. Now, hopefully, I'll be able to talk about this movie in a bit more detail with some friends of mine. But we'll see how that goes. That's going to depend on schedules and stuff, if we could arrange it and things like that. But hopefully I could do a podcast in the coming weeks or so where we talk about the Batman in more detail. So I'm not going to say definitely yes, because I'm going to try and get some people and, you know, because look, I've got my thoughts on it, but I feel like if you're going to talk about a movie in depth, you want to bounce your ideas off other people who've seen it as well, not just talk on your own, because I can talk on my own, and maybe I'll do that. We'll see. Depends on whether I can get people. It might be just me just talking, but I'd rather, if I can, get some people to bounce the ideas off and listen to what they think, and I can say my opinions and their opinions, and you know, talk about it in more detail and more depth and stuff like that. So potentially look out for that. But for now, if you've not seen The Batman, go see The Batman. It is incredible. All right. But yeah, that's going to be that for that section. Let's talk about some things that are happening in the world. In our corner as well. So yeah, I want to talk about. Let me move over to this screen so y'all can see. Well, you can see if you're watching on YouTube. If you're not watching on YouTube and you're listening to on Spotify or potentially possibly one of the other platforms, if I could get that sorted. But yeah, the first thing I want to talk about, or the first sort of news world thingy I want to talk about, is this whole thing with YouTube. Well, not whole thing with YouTube, but YouTube apparently now offering up to $300,000 to get podcasters to make videos. Now, I happen to be a podcaster, so this caught my interest. So it doesn't really say what the criteria is, or if you need, like, you know, I don't know, certain number of followers or stuff like that. It doesn't really state here. And maybe more details are to come. Well, I imagine more details are to come anyway. But certainly, if anybody at YouTube is hearing this, or if you know somebody from YouTube, you know, hey man, you know, I wouldn't mind a little bit of that. I wouldn't mind a little bit of that $300,000. You know what I'm saying? Like I said, I'm a podcaster, and I've been a content creator on YouTube. You know, I've put up a few videos in the past, but I'm a podcaster now. If you want to give $300,000 to podcasters, I'll take some of it. I don't even need $300,000 to be honest. They got like $50,000 offers and $200,000. You know what I mean? Like we could talk. You could talk. I don't need all the big money in that. You know what I mean? But if you could kick a little cash over, If you know anybody at YouTube, if you work at YouTube or know anybody at YouTube, put in a good word. You know what I mean? Like support a brother. You understand? Like yeah, man. I wouldn't mind some of that. I wouldn't mind some of that. You know what I mean? I've got a microphone that I use. Well, clearly I have a microphone because you can hear me speak, but I have a microphone. It's called the MV. It's a Shure MV88 Plus microphone. And I bought it for £175. It was a microphone. It came with a Monfrotto mini tripod. It came with that's what you can hear just hitting the table right now, by the way. It came with a pouch to keep stuff in, a bunch of cables, a clamp so you could attach it to. I could attach my phone to the tripod and put the microphone on top of the clamp. And it came with a clip that attaches the microphone to the clamp, microphone to the tripod, or the clamp for that matter, actually. But here's the thing: I managed to lose the clip somehow. I don't know how I managed to lose the clip, but I managed to lose the clip. I guess it fell out my bag somehow. I don't know. I really don't know. I've looked for it, looked everywhere that I remember using it, can't find it. But that's not the issue. The issue is I'll go online to try and get a new clamp, right? A new clip, excuse me. But you can't just buy the clip. You got to buy the clip and you got to buy the clamp together. You have to buy them together. You can't buy them separately. You got to buy them together. All right, fine, whatever. But then they want £23 for it. £23 for the clip and the clamp. Are you taking a piss? Like I said, I paid £175 for everything. You really gonna tell me £23 of that is a clip and a clamp? Nah, fam. You taking a piss. Listen, man, we'll ghetto this thing. You know what I'm doing right now? I've got, those like cable ties that when you buy something and the cables like all twist, and they have these ties that hold the cable together, that you twist them around to hold the cable together. I've got one of those, and I'm using that to hold the microphone to a tripod. Man, we'll ghetto this thing, you understand? £23. But if I can get this grant from YouTube, then I can buy that clip and the clamp. I'm just saying. I can buy a clip and a clamp for £23 if I can get this grant from YouTube. So yeah, put in a good word for me. Put in a good word for me. Speaking of not wanting to pay money for stuff, let's talk about this next thing now. That's a nice segue, by the way. I thought so. Let me know what you think. Kanye West is selling his next album, Donda 2. So far, so good, right? If you're a Kanye West fan, you're probably excited. However, the only way you can buy Donda 2 is on what is called a stem player. And if you are watching, you can see it on the screen right now. If you're not watching, let me try and describe it. It is a circle kind of pod-shaped thing. Imagine like like a small circular, I guess a small circular pod. That's literally it. I don't know. Imagine like a case, like a circular case, like a makeup case. A makeup case. You got to open up and the mirrors inside. Yeah, imagine when it's closed, right? Like that kind of clamshell design, right? But when it's closed, that circular kind of shape. That's what it looks like. That's kind of shape. That circular kind of shape. And it's a unit. Clearly it's a unit, but it's a unit that has Donda 2 loaded on it. And with this unit, you can listen to the album. You could also isolate individual tracks, so you can isolate the music from the audio. You can isolate different parts of the music. I guess like the drum. I mean, it doesn't say specifically, but it did say different parts of the music. So I'm assuming to some degree you could do things like slow down the drums or speed up the piano or whatever, things like that. So you can isolate different parts of the music and speed them up, slow them down, and that kind of thing. And that sounds pretty cool, right? It sounds pretty cool. But for $200, you mad? Are you mad? Nah, that is not for me, fam. That is not for me. But listen, I'm not a Kanye West fan. Don't get me wrong, I do like some of his stuff. I think he's got some bangers over the years, but I generally would say I'm not a fan of his music in the sense that I'm not the guy buying all his albums. But here's what I want to say about this really is, like I said, it's not for me. And I kind of mean that in two ways. One, it's not for me because I'm not a Kanye West fan. And if I was, like, imagine if it was, I don't know, let's say Metallica put out their next album and you could only get it on this stem player. I'm a Metallica fan, right? Big Metallica fan, right? if they put out their next album and you could only get it on this stem player and you had to pay $200 for it or 200 whatever, no, I'm not getting it. Mm-mm. Red Hot Chili Peppers, their new album's about to come out. If they announce that their new album is only going to be available on a stem player, you can't get it nowhere else, and you're going to pay $200 for it, no. And here's the thing. Whether you are a fan of somebody or not, there's always a point where you have to decide for yourself when you bow out. Because if you allow yourself to be so blindly invested into another person, then they could just take the piss with you. You know what I mean? Like, they can just take the piss with you. Like, if you allow yourself to be so blind, like, if you're the type of person who just says Kanye West can do no wrong and everything he does is great, and then because of that, you're going to put all your money together to go buy this thing. Really? Really? Now, look, like I said, it's got some cool features on it. But let's be honest, it's a novelty. You know, like, you could slow the tempo and speed this up, and that's cool. But let's be honest, it's a novelty. How much can you do that? Like, when I want to listen to an album, I want to listen to the album. I press play, and then I don't go away until it stops. That is an album, from the first song to the last song. The order of the songs in which they're placed, the songs that have been chosen to be put on the album, and everything that is done, that is the album. That is the way the artist has created this thing to create some kind of experience. When you can start fiddling around with this, that, and the other, you take away from the experience. And like I say, it's a cool feature, but ultimately it's a novelty, because when you listen to an album, you listen to the album. So something like this, I will get bored of it. It's the type of thing that if it was going for, like, I don't know, 15 quid, 20 quid, yeah, maybe, you know, but it's the only way you can listen to music? No, allow it, man. And for $200? Taking a piss. But like I said, and this is really what I want to say with this. In fact, there's a couple of things. Actually, before I say what I want to say, let me say one other thing. This is not the first time something like this has happened in music. I'm going to show you something. I don't know if these were the first, but this was one of the early ones that I know of. So Wu-Tang Clan did something similar back in the day. This was back in 2015, where they put out an album called Once Upon a Time in Shaolin. They only made one copy of that album. One copy, and it was sold at auction for an undisclosed amount to a gentleman called Martin Shkreli, who's the CEO of Turning Pharmaceuticals, who ended up being arrested or something like that for fraud. Was he arrested? Well, he was convicted. Doesn't say he was arrested, but it says following Shkreli's conviction for security fraud, a federal court seized assets belonging to him, including the album, and that was then later sold to a non-fungible token NFT collector called Please I don't know how that's pronounced. Please Dio for $4 million. But anyway, there is only one copy of this album in the world, and the owner of it cannot use it commercially, or cannot be commercially exploited. As they say, cannot be commercially exploited until 2103, which is less than 100 years from now. About 80, am I working that out right? 80 years, 79 years? About 79 years from now. So, maybe some of us will still be around when this album could be commercially exploited, maybe. But the point I'm trying to make is that they only made one copy of this album. And what that effectively means is that this album was not for everybody. If you are a Wu-Tang Clan fan and you bought every single Wu-Tang Clan album up until this point, this album, unless you had the money to buy it at auction, was not for you. It was not intended for everybody to have, clearly, because it only made one copy. And I think that's the same with what Kanye West is doing with this. It's not for everybody. You might be a Kanye West fan. You might have bought every single one of his albums up until this point, but this is not for you. And this is really what I want to talk about with this. When it comes to art, I think one of the biggest mistakes that we make as consumers is that we assume that everything is made for us, and it's not true. An artist has every right to make something for one set of people and then another set of people if they want to, if that's what they want to do. And Kanye West has made his albums. I don't know how many albums he's got, but he's made his albums and he's put them out on CD and whatever else over the years. And you might have every single Kanye West album and every single Kanye West single and watch every single Kanye West video and everything he's done and be a big fan of his. And you get to this point and it's like, I do not, and you might be one of these people saying, look, I don't have $200 to spend on this thing. Sorry, but this is not for you. And I think when we accept that not everything is made for us and that artists don't owe us anything when it comes down to it, you know, it's a freeing experience because it also allows you to say, okay, well, this is not made for me, then that's fine. Move on to something that is. You know, and the commercial success of a thing like this would be determined by how many people it is made for in the end, which, who knows, maybe there's millions and millions of people willing to buy this worldwide. It could be the next big thing. We'd have to wait and see. But for those out there, whether like myself who just know, for people who don't have the money or people who, you know, have, you know, you know, just don't have money and still like wouldn't get it anyway. Like it's just not, it's not for you. It's not for you. Not everything is made for you. And that's a hard pill to swallow. You know, like I can remember like watching Star Wars, the prequels when they came out. And especially with the first one, The Phantom Menace, and coming out of cinema, I'm like, what the hell was this? And then by the time the Disney Star Wars came out, I was kind of like, bruh. And then it was that same thing, you know, I had to kind of take a step back and just realize Star Wars is not made for me. You know, just because I was a fan of the original trilogy back in the day, Star Wars right now, in fact, Star Wars for a long time has not been made for me. You know, that doesn't mean I can't watch it, of course. I still watch it, you know, but I watch it with the knowledge that it is not made for me. And when you accept that thing, it becomes a lot more enjoyable, to be honest with you. It becomes a lot more enjoyable. You might have access to it, but that doesn't mean it's made for you. Or you might have, and if you don't have access to it, then it definitely wasn't made for you. That's really what I'm trying to get at. Just because something exists, and even if you have access to it, it doesn't mean it is made for you. Like, for example, you can buy this thing. Let's say you have access to it because you got $200, or maybe you're way more than $200, you can buy this thing. Okay, cool. But now you've got this album on this pods that you can listen to, and what you do with it. You know, you got to carry this thing around you every time you want to listen to the music. Really? You know, it's not a very consumer focused device when you think about it. Not really. Like I say, it's a cool novelty, but that's pretty much it. Once you've done with it and you just want to listen to the album, this is not made for most people. That's my guess anyway. Even the people who could afford it, it is not made for. So just because you have access to something, that doesn't mean it's made for you. And if you don't have access to it, then you just got to look elsewhere. And if Kanye West wants to put this thing out, then Kanye West has made a decision that he's looking for an audience of people that are willing to buy this thing and champion this thing. And if that's not you, sorry, but this could be your time. This could be a time where you and Kanye West part ways, you know, because you don't have access to it and it's not really made for you anyway. Same with how you might feel about Star Wars. For every video you go on YouTube, people cussing out Star Wars. It doesn't do this, and they do this, and they have this, and they have that. It's not made for you. It is not made for you. And if you can't find anything in that, then this could be a point where you and Star Wars just need to part ways. Whether that's Star Wars, whether that's Star Trek, whether it's anything else. Not everything that exists is made for you, even if you have access to it. So that's kind of the point I wanted to make in a roundabout way. But anyway, I'm going to talk about this one briefly. This next thing kind of briefly. This is 8 more women allege sexual harassment. Oh, that's the wrong button. What am I doing here? Okay, yeah, 8 more. My bad. Here we go. 8 more women allege sexual harassment and discrimination at PlayStation maker Sony. Okay. Now, yeah, here's what I'm talking about this. So I'm sure y'all know about the Activision case going on. In fact, there was an update to that recently as well with the family of Ms. Moynihan suing Activision, the lady who committed suicide. And she's suing Activision. The family is suing Activision for wrongful death, and that was the sort of update there. And then this story is coming out as well. 8 more women. So apparently this happened a while ago initially, but then 8 more have since come out at Sony. Now the reason I want to bring this up is that when the Activision stuff happened, Sony and Microsoft and all these companies were coming out saying things like, we don't like sexual harassment. Sexual harassment is bad, and all that kind of stuff. All the generic statements that people make. And cool, okay, whatever. But here's the thing, and this is something that I hope everybody knows. And if you don't know, I'm about to tell you. These sorts of things, sexual harassment, racism, sexism, homophobia, all this sort of stuff goes on a lot in these companies, right? You just don't always hear about it. That's what it comes down to. This news does not surprise me. You just because you don't hear about it doesn't mean it don't happen. These things happen. You just don't always hear about it. And especially when it comes to these big companies, there are things going on that you may never hear about because people get hushed. People get paid to keep quiet. These things go on. So it's like, as much as everybody wants to talk about Activision and then, oh yeah, they're so bad, they're so bad, they're so bad. Don't think that Sony is much better, or Microsoft, or Nintendo, or any company, Warner Brothers, any company, Netflix, Amazon, any company, Apple. They got their things going on. Now, I'm not accusing nobody or nothing, because at the end of the day, it's not like I've got proof of these things. I'm just saying, don't be surprised when these news come out. These news articles come out. Just because you don't hear about it, don't mean it don't happen. Now, the thing is that because some people are arseholes, these things are probably going to keep happening. What it really comes down to is how they are dealt with. And because a lot of times companies try to sweep it under the rug. Honestly, for any company out there, for what my advice is worth, that is not the way to go about it. If something like this happens in your workplace, whether you run a big company or a small company, do not try to sweep it under the rug. You got to deal with it. You got to deal with it. You try to sweep it under the rug, or try to pretend like it didn't happen because you don't want the news to break and the news can sound bad. Things like this happen and it looks real bad. So don't sweep it under the rug. Don't try to act like it doesn't happen. Don't try to pretend. Don't try to diminish it to something else. Oh, it's just this. Don't worry about it. These things happen. And when they happen, you need to deal with it. So yeah, that's my advice for any companies, big or small. Deal with the bad shit that happens in your companies, whether it's sexual harassment, whether it's anything else. Doesn't really matter. Anything that goes on, bullying, whatever, deal with it. Don't sweep it under the rug. Don't try to pretend. Don't try to act like, oh, it's just a small thing or this, that, and the other. And don't try to pay people off. By the way, I'm not saying that's what happened in Sony. I'm just talking generally, by the way. Let me be clear on that. I'm not suggesting that sort of stuff happened at Sony or whatever. I'm saying in generally, don't do those things. Just deal with it. Deal with it. Deal with it. Let me take my swig of coffee. All right. So speaking of bad stuff going on, let me talk a little bit about this last thing now. Zoë Kravitz clarifies comments about being rejected from Dark Knight Rises role because she was too urban. So it was going around a little while ago that Zoë Kravitz claimed that she was too urban to audition for the Dark Knight Rises role. And there was a lot of talk online about, what really happened, because it's not because you're too dark, it's because you were too young to play Catwoman. I saw that a lot going around. I'm going to talk about some of these things. But before I do, she did clarify a few things. She didn't say she was told she was too dark. In fact, let me get the quote right here. She says, and this is her quote, at least according to the independent.co.uk, I wanted to audition for a small role. Let me start again. I wanted to audition for a small part in the film and was told I do not know who said this, but this is how it was worded to me, that they were not going urban on the part. This is something I heard a lot 10 years ago. It was a very different time. And now let me just get something on my screen real quick because I'm gonna need this later. I'm just looking now. Just looking at Zoë Kravitz on the movie database because I'm gonna need this later. That's all I'm doing right now. But let me come back to this side because yes, when this news broke, like I said, I heard a lot of different opinions about she's too young. It was not because she's it's not because she's black. It's because she's too young for the role. It's because she was going up against Anne Hathaway. She's just throwing this around. Why only talk about it now? How can she not know who told her a role? This look, that kind of stuff. And it just kind of occurred to me that perhaps, just perhaps, there's a lot of people out there that don't know or understand how the movie business works. Now, look, I'm not going to claim to be an expert on the movie business, but I do have a little bit of experience with it. Plus, I know a bunch of actors. So I happen to know a thing or two about auditions and things like that. When she said that she's not sure she doesn't know who told, whose decision that was, that is very common. Reason being is because it's not like applying for a job when you go to, she's not going to Warner Brothers directly. She has an agent, right? And by the way, let me be clear on something. I wasn't there, so I'm not saying this is what happened. This is me saying what most likely happened because this is typically how things go when it comes to applying for work. She has an agent, or she would have an agent. It is the agent that submits her for the role, right? And then the casting directors, the production crew, whatever, they look at all the people who've been submitted and they decide who they want to call for auditions and who they don't want to call for auditions. And then somewhere along that, they get back to her agent and say, we're not going the urban route with this one. And that's what her agent then tells her. So she's not going to know who made that decision because she wouldn't have spoke to them. Right? So that's number one. Now, as far as the word urban goes, it's what's called a dog whistle in a sense that the word is defined as of or relating to a town or city. Right? That's not really what it means, right? It's not really what it means in a lot of times. And in these sorts of contexts, it's not really what it is meant to say we're not going the urban route. Oh, so we're not going urban on this part. For The Dark Knight Rises, a film that is set in a city. We're not going urban on this part. Really. They'll have a film that's set in a city, but they don't want to go urban on this part. The word means relating to a city, right? The film is set in a city, but you're not going urban on this part. So yeah, it's defined as relating to a city. It's not quite what it means. You understand what I'm saying? Because it doesn't quite make sense for a film that is set in a city and to not want somebody who looks urban. You know what I mean? So yeah, there is that. Also, right. Excuse me. Coffee, by the way, the coffee. So yeah, there is that. And the thing about, she said she was going for a small, but the whole thing about going for Catwoman, for up against Anne Hathaway. I'm not sure people read what she said though, because she said she was going for a small part. And that was in the original statement as well. She was going for a small role. Catwoman was not a small role. So it probably wasn't applying for that. Right? Probably wasn't applying for that. It says down here that they believe it was Catwoman's roommate in the movie, but it's not known for sure until Zoë Kravitz or anybody else confirms otherwise. It's not actually known which role she was applying for. Probably not Catwoman though, because that wasn't a small role. But here's the thing. As some people did point out that, it's very common for movies and casting guys to pick people based on how they look and stuff like that. It's not a common thing. And to be fair, and a lot of times it's justified, right? So let's say like this role she was going for, although the movie's set in a city, perhaps the role itself, the character itself, was supposed to be, I don't know, some country bumpkin or whatever, right? And they just thought, we're not going urban on this part. Here's the thing though. Zoe Kravitz is an actor, right? Which means she acts according to how the character is supposed to be. So whether or not she herself is urban should be irrelevant, or is irrelevant, I should say. It shouldn't be relevant because she is an actor. And ultimately, what it should come down to is, okay, bring people in and let them audition. The fact is, she wasn't able to audition because they decided they're not going urban on this role, on this part. Which means somebody looked at her photo and all the stuff that was sent with it and decided she is urban. They didn't let her come in and show that she can act whatever kind of way. They said, no, we're not doing urban. They looked at her and said she was urban and then decided they're not doing that. So if you don't understand that urban is a dog whistle, I hope you understand that now. She was not even able to audition, which means she never even got her foot through the door to even show what she can do. They looked at the photo, got back to her agent and said, she's too urban. Not that, she's too young, or actually we need somebody taller, not that. Or actually we need a dude for this part, maybe. Not that. She's too urban. So she's too city, right? Let's if you want to go there, she's too city to play a role. Now, how can you tell somebody is too city if you haven't let them audition? You can't see that in a photo, right? You can't see city in a photo. So let's understand something. They're not seeing city. They're not seeing the definition of urban, because the definition of urban and what it actually means in this context, not quite the same thing. So, her being turned down for this role, or rather her not being allowed to audition for a role because she's urban, yeah, come on. Let's not pretend like this is new. Let's not pretend like it's the first time something like this has happened. She wasn't even able to audition. So anyway, let me show you guys something. Like I said, I wanted to bring this up because I did see a few things about Zoe Kravitz, about people saying stuff like, she only got the role because of her stepdaddy. First of all, that whether that's true or not, I don't know. But here's the thing: even if it was true, so aren't you supposed to do that? Whether it's her stepdaddy, her actual daddy, her mama, if you're in a position to help your kids out or help people out, isn't that what you're supposed to do? But here's the thing. You could take a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. And what I mean by that is, even if she did get help from her parents or her stepdad, it doesn't matter, because once you got somebody in the door or through the door, they need to deliver. And Zoe Kravitz has been professionally acting since at least 2007. That's her first credited role in 2007, at least according to the movie database. Since 2007, that is over 10 years acting. To up until her last role right now, the Batman, Selena Kyle. That is, let's see here, 41 credits in what, 15 years? 41 credits in 15 years. She was in the Jay-Z video. She was in X-Men First Class, excuse me, let me say it right. She's in Californication. I never watched it actually, but it was the one with Fox Mulder, wasn't it? It was, I said Fox Mulder. That's not his real name. That's his actor's name. But yeah, I never watched that series. Anyway, we're talking about Zoë Kravitz today. Big up Fox Mulder still, but we're talking about Zoë Kravitz today. But she's done a lot over the years. Small roles. She has some larger roles. TV, movies. She's done a lot over the years. So let's not act like she just turned up and got put in a movie because her stepdad is Aquaman. Come on. Put some respect on her name. When people are talking about the things they've gone through, if the first thing you're thinking of is to deny it and act like it never happened, keep your mouth shut. Because when people talk about their experiences, in particular negative experiences or potentially traumatic experiences, or indeed traumatic experiences, whether potential or not, if the first thing out of your mouth or the first thoughts in your mind are to tell that person that it never happened, keep your mouth shut. If you don't believe somebody that if you think they might be lying, okay, you're allowed to believe they might be lying. You don't. Some people lie. Let's be honest. Some people do lie. You're allowed to believe they might be lying. But even still, keep your mouth shut. Because you were not there. And clearly by the things people are saying about this whole thing shows that not only were they not there, they don't even know how auditions work. So if you weren't there, you don't know how things work, and yet people still want to run their mouth and tell her that it never happened. Really? Put some respect on her name. She's talking about an experience that happened, when was Dark Knight? Some 10 years ago, give or take? Not being able to audition for a movie. Now look, not everybody's going to get to audition for a movie. That's just how it is. The issue isn't that she wasn't able to audition. The issue is that she was told she can't audition because they're not going urban. You can't see urban. Not the definition of it. But you can see urban, the meaning of it. So let's not pretend this isn't about skin color. Now, whether or not that decision came from Chris Nolan himself, who knows? Well, somebody knows, I'm sure. Or whether it was a casting director or just somebody who just we won't like the look of her face. Who knows? Who knows who made the decision? But what I will say is this. If you look at the lead actors and say the supporting actors of Christopher Nolan movies, you might notice there's not many of a certain type of people. Not that they're not there at all. I'm not saying that. They're definitely there, a few times, but not that many. You know what I mean? There's just not that many. And even less when it comes to women. Now, hey, I'm not the guy to make accusations about things that I know nothing about because, I'm not there. But just as an empirical observer, I'm just going to bring up Christopher Nolan movies on my screen right now. Something that you can check for yourself on the movie database. If you look at the lead roles and the supporting roles of his movies, I'm not saying there's a few like Tenet, I'm not saying they don't exist or they're not there at all. There's a few. There are a few, but not that many. Just not that many. Just looking over a few roles right now for those, if you're listening, and just looking at some of the roles. We've got John David Washington was in Tenet. Big up John David Washington, by the way. He was in a film called Black Klansman. Really good movie, directed by Spike Lee. Good movie. If you've not seen it, And by the way, Tenet's really cool as well. A bit confusing, honestly, but good movie. And by the way, let me be clear on something. Christopher Nolan is one of the best directors working right now. Let me not put any kind of ill thoughts like that in people's minds. I'm just saying, as an observer, looking at his movies. In fact, this is next movie coming out called Oppenheimer. Looking at the lead roles and the supporting roles, you might notice that they all tend to skew in a particular direction. You might notice that there aren't many of a certain, shall we say, urban, right? And even less when it comes to women. Now look, Christopher Nolan doesn't have to do anything he doesn't want to do. He can put anybody he wants to in his movies. I'm not going to tell him otherwise. He makes great movies. I've not seen all his movies, but the ones I have seen are pretty great. In fact, he's made some of my favorite movies, no doubt. And he can put anybody he wants. If he wants to put all white people in his movies, that's his business. I don't have no issue with it. I'm just saying that before you start denying what Zoë Kravitz said and try to act like it never happened on The Dark Knight Rises, before you start telling people that their experiences never happened, you might want to check a few things. You might just want to do that. Because it's not that surprising, quite frankly. It's not. Big up Morgan Freeman real quick. Big up Michael Caine as well. It's not that surprising. It's sad, is what it is. So yeah. Just showing some of the, for the people listening, just showing the casts of the Christopher Nolan movies. Matthew McConaughey was in Interstellar. Interstellar's a pretty cool movie, actually. Yeah, it was a bit what can I say? I mean, I liked it, but I don't know, man. I don't know. There's something about it that I might need to watch it again to kind of remind myself what it was. But there was just something about it that I kind of felt like, about. But right now, I can't remember what that was. But yeah, it's a pretty cool movie. It's a pretty cool movie. But yeah, anyway. So, Zoë Kravitz, yeah, like I said before, the Batman is an awesome film. Zoë Kravitz as Selena Kyle is awesome. Big up Zoë Kravitz. She's been putting in work for a while. Put some respect on her name, and just in general, when people are talking about their experiences, if you have nothing to say that's going to add any kind of support, then just keep your mouth shut. If you don't believe somebody, keep your mouth shut. If you don't have proof of anything, keep your mouth shut. I mean, look, I know people lie. I mean, Jesse Smollett, right? Let's not pretend people don't lie. I'm just saying, if you weren't there, you don't have proof, and you have no idea how these things work, keep your mouth shut. That's my message of the day to people who just quick to run their mouths and tell somebody that their experiences never happened when... Anyway. That's all I'm going to say for now. As I start winding down on this podcast, it's episode 2 of Uncivilized Art. If you have any questions, suggestions, recommendations, send them through and I'll see what I can do. So yeah, I'm going to try and do these episodes once a week at least. The days may vary. Sometimes I might do a little bit more. Sometimes it might be a little bit less. But yeah, I'm on YouTube. I'm on Spotify and hopefully soon on other podcast platforms as well, but for now YouTube and Spotify. And yeah, find me on the socials, the Twitters and all that sort of stuff. Hopefully I could have some guests and things like that. And yeah, just things like, so like I said, I do want to try and talk about the Batman in more detail, but if you want to hear any other movies or games talked about in some detail, then yeah, let me know. We'll see what we can do with that. But that's going to be all for now. So guys, until next time, until whenever, if ever, peace.